Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the WCS Sports Connection Coaches Preview Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Qualls, and with me today is Coach Woodward of the Brentwood Bruins. And we're going to talk Brentwood football today, and we're going to talk about tonight's matchup with Brentwood versus Murfreesboro, Oakland. How you doing today, Coach?
I'm good. How are you, Jeremy?
Good. For us new folks, tell me a little bit about yourself, your bio of what you've been doing up to this point coaching-wise.
I bounced around the area a little bit. I actually started in Williamson County several years ago at Centennial High School, coached there for a couple of years as the offensive coordinator. And then I went up to Austin Peay and spent 1 year there coaching defensive backs. And then came back to the county and was at Ravenwood when it opened up and was offensive coordinator there for 4 years. And then went to Antioch and was the head coach there for 7. And this is my second year at Brentwood.
Okay, now on the Ravenwood staff, please remind us, were you on the state championship squad there?
I was.
Okay, that was. I'm sure that was a fun time during that process of opening that school one and then being a part of that coaching staff. So we have an Austin Peay connection.
We do.
We were at Austin Peay the same time. He was coaching the football team there when I was enrolled at Austin Peay, and that's fun to be a Gov, and we're always going to be a Gov at some point in time in your life. You always look back, and I'm sure. Tell me a little bit about that coaching experience there. What did you learn? Who were you coaching under, and how do you relate that little coaching experience at Austin Peay into your team today?
All right. Well, I was there 2 different times. I was there as a grad assistant for 2 years, and that's when I left and went to Centennial for 2 and went back. And in both cases, I worked for Bill Schmitz. He was the head coach up there, and learned a great deal during that time. Those 2 years as a grad assistant, I was on the offensive side of the ball, so I learned a great deal offensively. Still use some of it, many years later today. And also learned about time management, organization, handling of a coaching staff. Learned a lot of things from him while I was up there, and it's been very beneficial. And then when he hired me back the second time, taught me about the defensive side of the ball. I was coaching defensive backs, and that's really helped me out on the offensive side of the ball, because now I have a better understanding of what people are trying to do defensively, whereas before I was just focused on the offensive side of the ball.
Sure.
But when you get that other perspective and you understand what they're trying to do with a particular coverage or a particular stunt or front, it does help you out as an offensive play caller.
If I'm a parent and my child is playing for you, and I'm getting some recruiting going on in the process, it seems like to me to have somebody that's been on that level, that would be such a plus to have. I mean, you know the ins and outs of the recruiting process, the do's and the don'ts, if you will, and how to decipher what really is happening from the college level and relating that to the parents, saying, this is a good situation or this may not be the best situation for your child. I think that is very beneficial.
It definitely is. When the parents or the players tell me what a coach is telling them, a lot of times I can help them decipher that and see what really the real intentions may be for the coach, but also let them know the importance of what it means to have an official visit as opposed to going up, to catch a game. How the coaches have to divvy up scholarships and, what to look for in terms of how many are at your position, how many guys are they trying to bring in. There's a lot of things that go into the recruiting process on the college end that a lot of high school players and parents, don't know about. So I do think it's helpful to give them that perspective as they go through the process.
And sometimes they get caught up in the glitz and the glamour of this and the facilities and that, and they fail to look at the depth charts and who they're recruiting and bringing in. So you're telling me that all these college coaches, they're not exactly all completely 100% truthful?
I would never say that they are they lie, but I would say that sometimes they may bend it and make sure they're telling a kid or a parent what they want to hear. Yes.
Well, speaking of the college staff, let's talk about Brentwood staff. Let's talk about your coaching staff and who they are and their positions that they coach and maybe how long they've been with you.
Well, the first one's another former Gov. Pat Curran is our defensive coordinator, and he's been there 2 years. He's been coaching for me for 2 years, but he was actually at Brentwood before I got there. And he's been the defensive coordinator for 2 years, does a great job there. Also on the defensive side of the ball, we have Dave Ball, a former Titan, who's coaching our defensive line, and then Kenny Rutan, who is working with the defensive backs. And then on the offensive side, that's more the area of focus for me. So I'm on the offensive side with Gabe Evans, who is our O-line coach, Mark Matakavich, who is coaching our running backs, and then Neil Nutter helps me out, helps with receivers. He also works on the defensive side, helping out with linebackers. He kind of goes back and forth on both sides.
So you have a full staff, and I know it's fun to look at your staffs during practice. Okay, and when you have a full staff, you become kind of more of a facilitator and manager versus the hands-on part. And I'm sure that you probably are hands-on in particular drills and breakout sessions, but you sit back for a second and see you got 8 to 10 guys out there working and going hard at the positions. It's pretty fun to watch and pretty fun to be involved in.
It's great because all of our coaches are they're very hands-on, and they're very, for lack of a better word, I guess I would say, emotionally involved. I mean, you're not going to see anybody any of those coaches just standing back and observing. They're involved every play, coaching a player up, whether it's making a correction or just telling them, yeah, that's a great job. You did it exactly the way we want you to. So, it's great to see those guys interact, see them teaching our young guys. And I still do get hands-on with quarterbacks, especially on the offensive side, and do some with linebackers on the defensive side. But yeah, we've got a great staff of assistant coaches. They do an outstanding job.
Once again, we're here with Coach Woodward, and we're talking about Brentwood football. Now, you've got 2 coaches on your staff that have college experience. Now you've got one also that played on a professional level. So let's talk a little bit about him and what he brings to the table.
First thing Dave brings is instant credibility. He played D-line with the Titans and other teams for a number of years in the league. So when he tells our guys something, they understand this is coming from a guy who played the position and played it very well. So he brings that, but also, just like all the other guys, he's a very down-to-earth guy, first of all. He's not, just by talking to him, you wouldn't say, oh, he must have been in the league. He doesn't like to throw all that out. He's just there rolling up his sleeves and working, like the rest of us. And he has a great rapport, with the kids. And that's really the most important thing. Even if, even playing in the league, if he didn't care about the kids, they would be able to pick up on it, and his words wouldn't mean as much. But just because he cares so much about them and wants them to succeed, that helps a great deal with that relationship.
And that's so funny. At the high school level, your physical presence, the way that you are, your size and your ability that you may that the players may perceive you to be. Now you got a professional athlete, and a professional athlete tells you to do 1 or 2 things. There's no questions going through their head whether or not he's saying the right thing. So
no, there's not.
The credibility is there, and I'm sure he does a fantastic job and brings a lot of insight to you guys. So getting into the player side of things, let's talk about your seniors this year. Let's spotlight some seniors, talk about their positions, what they bring to your program, and anything else you want to add to that.
Well, we have 3 senior captains, and they were voted on by the players. So these are the 3 guys that the players feel like represent our program and all that it stands for, not just on the field, but also how they conduct themselves in the school, how they conduct themselves in the community. And they did a great job. These 3 guys are great young men. The first one is Lincoln Jones. He's a tight end for us, and unfortunately, we missed him for the first 4 games of the year with an injury, but we got him back last week for the Dixon County game. And, having a tight end is very key, especially for the run game, and I think that's part of the reason why, we did so well running the football, having him back and having a tight end in there. But very good player, great kid, a 35 on the ACT, wow. So he's, outstanding academically, very involved. All of our kids are really involved in the community. They all completed at least 25 hours of community service over the last 6 months.
Now, is that something that you do as a team every year, or is that something they decided to do on their own?
It's a program that had been instituted before I got there, but we've just increased the hours, and we just said, hey, over a calendar year, we think 25 hours, that's 2 hours a month to go, give back to the community, and the parents love it, the kids love it, they've had a lot of positive experiences, and some even go above and beyond the 25. But yeah, they're all involved in doing 25 hours through the course of a year.
I think it's fantastic because as a high school head coach, there's so many facets that we have to be involved in. It's not just the fact that we have to talk to vendors about the cloth that we're going to wear and getting the equipment needed and raising the funds to even pay for these things, or just the on-field management that you have to have during practice, during games. But there's such an important piece of this that goes unnoticed, and that is the role of a head coach or the assistant coaches or a coaching staff together of being mentors for these young men and women to become better citizens.
Right.
And I think that right there is a perfect example of what you're talking about, and I commend you and your coaching staff on doing that. Moving on to your senior spotlight,
sure.
I apologize.
Sure. So we talked about Lincoln, and he's playing tight end, 35 ACT, great kid. We're very fortunate and happy to get him back, for the rest of the year. That'll help us a lot on the offensive side of the ball. Next is Jalen Marsalis. He is a returning starter for us at receiver, and great athlete first and foremost. Runs beautiful routes and has set a school record this year with 196 yards receiving against Centennial early in the year. And I don't know what his exact stats are right now, but I know he was pushing 30 receptions and averaging almost 20 yards a catch through our first 4 games. So doing an outstanding job there for us. And getting some college looks there, hoping he'll get some offers here pretty soon because he's definitely a guy who can go on and play receiver at the next level. And then the third one is Hunter Schmeisser. He's our starting center, and he started last year at the 4 other offensive line spots. So he didn't play center, but he played left tackle, left guard, right tackle. Now he's at center. He's a big kid. He's 6'3", 300 pounds, very good feet. And the move to center has helped us out as an offense because we see so many odd fronts. It's nice to be able to say, okay, now we have a center who can go ahead and take care of the nose. You other 4 worry about the linebackers and the 2 DNs, not having to worry about doubling that nose. So we did that out of necessity for us on offense, but it's also helped him out when you talk about playing next level because he's got great size for a college center, and he's starting to get more interest since that move has happened.
I was just about to ask, being 6'3", 300 and playing center ought to be able to get some looks somewhere. Is he getting pretty much a lot of offers, or is he just getting some looks?
Butler has made an offer, and I know he's had several other trips. He's gone out to UT Martin. He's gone out to Western Carolina. He's had other schools that are coming out to, watch him on any given Friday. So a lot of interest right there, and we would expect that as the season goes on, he gets some more offers.
Speaking of your wide receiver, Jalen Marcellus, is he also as well getting some looks from some colleges?
Yeah, he is. He doesn't have any hard offers yet, but he's been to several places. He's had several coaches contact me, contact him, staying in touch, and he's had a great start to the year, which is what we had talked about in the summer was what he would need to do. So I would expect at any time some of those offers will start to come in. You know how it is. That first one's always the toughest. Once you get that first one, then it's a snowball effect, and then they start rolling in.
Well, I'm here talking with Brentwood Bruins football coach. Coach Woodward, we're going to talk real briefly before we go to break. The offensive side of the ball. Let's talk about some position players, your quarterback, some other players on the offensive side. Well, who can we see when we come out Friday night?
Well, at quarterback, you're going to see Carson Croy. He's a junior, and he has progressed, just steadily each week through the course of the season. Last year, he was, strictly a JV quarterback for us, but he played every snap, every game. Tough kid. That was the first thing that stood out last year when I got in was he's out there during practice, getting beat up as a scout team quarterback. He's going out on Mondays, taking every snap of the JV games, and takes coaching, takes film home, comes back with questions. I mean, is just a student and has worked very hard to grasp the offense. And like I said, he's improving each week. And if you look at his numbers, he's going to get some pretty stiff competition. And but he's standing in there. He's getting better, and that's why our yardage numbers have gone up, and that's why our point numbers have gone up through the course of the year. It's directly related to how he's been playing. At running back, you're going to see a lot of John Robertson, another junior. And he's a little, I would call him a scat back just because he's, 150 pounds, about 5'8", 150, so he's not a big guy. Mm-hmm. But last week we're playing Dixon County. He runs for, I think, 170 yards. And a lot of those yards were after contact, which, if you watch a college game or a pro game, they'll talk about yards after contact. Right. He was breaking tackles. He was moving piles. I mean, things you wouldn't expect out of a kid his size. But he's got great quickness and, very strong, especially in his lower body and in his core section, which makes him hard to bring down.
So do we expect to see more of a running attack, more of an air attack? What kind of offense do we like to see at Brentwood?
I hope you're going to see a balanced, almost 50-50 attack. We don't want to be one-dimensional either way. We want to be able to attack people in both ways. Last week was the first time our run game really broke out. We had been more pass-heavy the first few weeks, and some of it was dictated by the score of the game and having to try to come from behind, and some of it was dictated by the fact that we had some injuries up front on our offensive line. But last week, we really had a breakout with our run game. We got Kenyon Davidson back, who I didn't mention earlier, but he's another senior offensive lineman who's 6'3", 290, so he's another big guy to have there, which should help the running game. And, hopefully if things are going the way we plan, if not a 50-50, at least a 60-40 run-pass, ratio for us on a game tonight.
Okay. And real briefly, before we go into break, Coach, let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. What do we like to see? Who's some of your linebackers, your cornerbacks, defensive backs? Who's some stars on that side of the ball for you?
Well, start with the first level and moving back. Our nose guard, Jordan Boone, has done a really good job for us this year. He's a senior, 260 pounds. And just like we talked about how we feel like we have a center who can handle a nose one-on-one, we feel like we have a nose who other teams will need to double. So as long as he keeps playing at that level where they have to put 2 on him, that's going to help free up other guys for us, whether it's our linebackers or whether it's one of our other defensive linemen. John White has also played well in our 3 technique. When you look at our linebackers, our most consistent guy has been Harrison Johnson. He's another senior, plays our weak side backer. Would be undersized if you looked at him just on the roster and saw his height and weight. You would say, well, it's a small linebacker, but he's quick. He's tough, and he gets to the football, and he's our leading tackler for the season, and it's just a good, tough, hard-nosed kid there. And in the secondary, Spencer Schwartz has played really well at safety, and he's a junior, so that bodes well for the future also with him back there. But he's got really good ball skills. He also spends a lot of time studying and can recognize routes, makes good breaks on the football, and does a good job there in the middle of the field for us. And then at corner, Asher Melton, who wasn't even one of our starters at the start of the year, but has been playing more due to some injuries. 2 weeks in a row, he's had a pick 6. So he's playing very well for us there, and has just kept working and has earned more and more time. And I told him he keeps making plays like that, he'll be on the field a lot.
Well, good. This is Coach Mike Woodward from the Brentwood Bruins football team, and we're going to come back after this break. We're going to talk about the toughest #1 schedule in the state that Brentwood's had to face, and we're going to talk about tonight's matchup versus Oakland. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Sophia, and this is my book, Black Beauty. I chose this book because I really like the illustrations, and my favorite part is when Black Beauty finds a new owner and he gets hurt, but the owner takes good care of him. And you could find this book at school or at a store.
Hello and welcome back to this week's edition of the WCS Sports Connection Coaches Preview Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Qualls, and with me is Brentwood Bruins football coach Mike Woodward. We're gonna talk about your schedule. You've got the #1 toughest, hardest ranked schedule in the state. And I told Coach Siegenthaler, your athletic director, this weekend that I would fire him if I was you. But we understand that those things are set, and that's just the way it is, and they're there, and we're gonna play them.
That's right.
That's why we play the games. And you know what? It makes you better when you're playing this type of competition come deep in conference season.
It does. I mean, we're looking at it as it's just going to make us better. We want to get back in the playoffs, and if you get back in the playoffs, you're going to play quality teams in November. So this schedule is definitely going to prepare us for that. We won't be surprised by anything we see, district play or November play, if we're fortunate enough to get there.
There is no way you're going to be surprised. I'm telling you, folks, this is the toughest schedule that I've seen in football in high school. We started off the year with an undefeated, highly ranked CPA team that has been rolling, folks, since they played you guys. 31-10. What did we take away from that game?
Well, no disrespect to CPA. CPA was very well coached, came in with a good plan, and they executed it very well. But we as a coaching staff were very disappointed with how our guys came out. We came out flat. I don't know how that happens for a first game, a home opener, but it did. So we had to go, make some changes there and address some things. And we got that taken care of, and we got back to playing, good, hard, what we would call Brentwood football the rest of the way. But we just felt like that first week we were very, very timid, very slow to react, and didn't come anywhere near to playing to our capability that first week.
And then you followed that up with a little bit of an easier game, right? You followed it up with Blackman out of Murfreesboro, who was fresh off their win over Oakland on ESPN. So you decided, well, CPA, we're going to go. We're going to take a cupcake this week, right? We're going to play Blackman, who's ranked #1 in the state right now, undefeated, and highly ranked, if I'm not mistaken, in the top 20 in the country right now. And that score was 42-21. And I know you had some takeaways from that game.
Now, yeah, the first takeaway was just the way our kids came out and competed. Much better, much more like what we expected from the beginning from our kids. And Blackman jumped on us early, and we had a chance to just go ahead and duck our heads and say, well, we're not going to beat them. We've heard all week about how great they are. We're behind now. But our kids didn't take that mindset. Our kids took the mindset they were going to keep fighting and keep competing. And I think once they got more accustomed, to the speed that Blackman was playing at and that competition level, now we got more comfortable and able to start doing some things actually on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. So, we came out, even though we lost the game, we came out feeling much better than we had the week before.
And then you came in, and Centennial, your first conference opponent, came in, and they were undefeated at that point in time, and you lost 24-23 in overtime. Take us through that last possession there in overtime.
Well, heart-wrenching game. I mean, if we go back to the very beginning part of the game, we were down 14. I think it was 14-0 at half, and it just had made some mistakes there to kind of put us in a hole. But again, our kids showed some resiliency. Came back in the second half, and Trace Halpern, our kicker, hits a 44-yard field goal with 58 seconds left in regulation to get us to the overtime period. And then we get to overtime. We won the toss. We went defense first, which is what we wanted to do. And Centennial scored, hit the extra point to go up 7. And, at that point, I knew that if we score, we were going to go for 2 because we were going to have a chance to win the game right then. That's what we wanted to do. So we did. We scored. We got on 4th and goal. Carson hit Jalen Marsalis on a curl route, which, brought us to within 1, got us that 24-23 score. And then to go for 2 in the win, we wanted to go back to Jalen and had a play set up where he was isolated one-on-one with the corner, ran a double move, and the corner, to his credit, just made a heck of a break on the ball and managed to get a hand in there and knock it away. So, we lose a heartbreaker by 1.
And then to not make matters any better, we bring in the state runner-up from the previous year, Hendersonville, who's undefeated, and they've been rolling folks 54-33. So we're making progress. What about a takeaway from Hendersonville?
Takeaway from Hendersonville was that game. Really going back to Centennial, our offense finally started clicking and doing some more things on a consistent basis. And we go to Hendersonville, and we were able to move the ball. What we didn't do well early on was convert touchdowns, and we had to settle for field goals. And against Hendersonville, who I think is averaging almost 50 a game, you've got to get points. You got to get as many points, and when you're at the 10 or at the 20, you better get touchdowns. And we didn't. So we found out we needed to work a little bit more on our red zone offense, which we had. But offensively, continue to show growth, like we mentioned earlier with Carson. Continue to show growth from week 3 to week 4, and then defensively, we just found out how important it is to trust your keys. You're playing a wing T offense, and when that guard pulls, you better go. When you're told, when you're keying the tight end and you see the tight end pull, you better go.
And that will pay off down the road because you're going to play some more wing teams. Summit, I know, plays a wing T, so that will pay off down the road. And then all that hard work and all those heartbreaking losses pay off when you play Dixon. You roll Dixon 45-25. Great win for you guys to get that win and go 1-1, 500 in the district schedule, and that right now is more important than the overall schedule. And that leads us up, as if Blackman wasn't enough from that ESPN game. We had to play the other side. That brings us to tonight's game. We're playing Murfreesboro, Oakland. This is a scout report time of the show that I like to do with the coaches. So tell us about offensively what we're going to see from Oakland.
Well, you're going to see a lot of big guys up front. Their offensive line, very big, very physical. Now, they have gone to more of a spread look than they were last year when we played them, or even earlier in the season, maybe when they were on ESPN. They're doing a lot of shotgun now. Still a lot of 2-back runs, still a lot of physical downhill running, but it is out of gun. And they do have 3 big, talented receivers out there that are tough physically to match up against. So it looks like they're making more concerted effort to try to get the ball to those guys in space and getting away from the 3 yards in a cloud and dust offense that maybe they were last year.
And I fail to remember how many SEC commits they have on that team. They have quite a few, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many SEC commits there are. I think the last count I heard there were 7 or 8 guys who have committed somewhere,
right.
Off of this team. So.
Right. So there's no shortage of superstardom on that team.
No, they look good getting off the bus. I'll tell you that. And they got some guys who can play.
Yeah, and sometimes that's half the battle won. But it's not going to be for tonight because I know that your guys have already faced enough opponents that look just like them getting off the bus. So this is going to end up paying off. But what about on the defensive side of the ball? What are they going to try to do to stop the Bruins on offense?
Fastest defense we've seen. They have some big guys up front, but their defensive line isn't, like you mentioned earlier, some of the guys we've seen, their defensive line isn't bigger than anybody that we've seen up to this point, but they've got great speed at all 3 levels, D-line, linebacker, and secondary. So, we may not be able to pop off the big 30, 40, 50-yard play that we had the last couple of weeks, but there are definitely opportunities there for us to pick it up in chunks of 4, 12, 10, and just methodically move the ball down the field. So that's what we're going to try to do.
And that brings me to the next question. How important is ball control in this game? Or is this a game where you're going to look at trying to, like you said, pick your parts, get those first downs, kind of do some clock management, if you will, and use that into your favor?
Definitely. We'll definitely try to manage the clock, and that's going to be more on me. I don't want my quarterback going up every single play worrying about taking it down to the last second or two. He's got enough things on his plate. But as far as, timing up when I send the play in, I'll slow that down a little bit so that, we can try to possess the ball for a little bit longer. And then we have to stay away from turnovers, obviously. We also have to stay away from penalties, because if we're going to try to just methodically move, we don't need a 2nd and 15 or a 3rd and 3 to turn into a 3rd and 8. We just need to try to use a cliche, stay ahead of the chains, and make sure we're picking up positive yards. And we're probably going to take some chances on some 4th downs also, just to try to keep the possessions alive and get some points.
Well, I know it's also a special week for Brentwood. It is homecoming, and sometimes homecoming can be a coach's worst nightmare, and sometimes you can play off those emotions. It's either way. How's the week going up under this part? I know we had a big pep rally today, and we got things going on. We had the parade going on. I don't want it to be, I know as a coach you don't want it to be a distraction, but can we play off that emotion tonight, and can we use that emotion to propel us to a win?
I hope so, and that's what I told the guys earlier in the week. And I used to be one of those coaches who just hated homecoming and hated the distractions, but I've been around for a little while now, and I think any player, when he thinks back, or a former player, you think back to your high school days, you're going to remember your homecoming game. And I told the guys, enjoy the festivities during the week. Just be smart. Don't be staying out late, obviously. Don't be doing things that can be detrimental to your performance. But at the same time, this is a one-time-a-year thing. And for the seniors, this is the last one they're going to have. So I want them to enjoy the experience. And, I definitely hope that, the build-up to the course of the week will help us out. I know we're going to have a great turnout from our student section, and they're going to be jacked up, ready for the game. So, it's going to be a great environment. And I want our guys to enjoy it and not worry about what anybody else says about Oakland or what the outcome is going to be. Just go out, play hard, enjoy the experience, and let's see what happens.
Well, tonight's game is so to say, your last dress rehearsal before we get deep into the conference play. And I know it's going to pay off for you. Matter of fact, on game day, me and Tate Matthews have a competition going back and forth, and I have put Murfreesboro, Oakland on upset alert. Brentwood Bruins are going to go get them tonight on a homecoming win, one for the ages, if you will. Before we get into the district, real quick, as we're closing to an end, pick in the district how you think it's going to fall out, excluding Brentwood.
All right. This will probably change a little bit from what I'd thought over the summer, but just going off of what I've seen from some scores and things like that, I'd still keep Ravenwood up there because they're the defending champs until somebody knocks them off. Centennial's been playing some outstanding football, so I'd probably put Centennial next and then go Indy, Franklin, Dixon County, and then Summit.
Okay. So this is Coach Mike Woodward. He's made his picks for the district, excluding his own group, but I'm telling you right now, don't sleep on the Brentwood Bruins. Come out early tonight. Kickoff is at 7 o'clock. It's homecoming. The Brentwood Bruins versus Murfreesboro, Oakland. One for the ages. Upset alert city. I'm Jeremy Qualls, your host. Thank you for joining us today on the WCS Sports Connection Coaches Preview Show. And remember to be nice, and we'll see you next time.
If we want to keep the blue in the sky, the green in the trees, we better care for the air we breathe. That it would truly be a breath of fresh air when we all can see forever through the air we breathe. So let's really try to be more aware of what we can do to clean up the air we all share. So let's you and me roll up our sleeves, let's do all we can and care for the air we breathe.